Live. By now, millions of Americans have received their stimulus checks. So, how are they spending that money? Now, according to a new report by Adobe Analytics, they found that flight bookings are up 111% from where they were in the weeks leading up to the vaccine rollout. I want to bring in Keith Eadie, Adobe Analytics Vice President and Head of Product. Keith, what have Americans been spending those stimulus checks on? Prepping for vacation?
It's very interesting, actually. We looked at the data relative to last August in terms of different product categories, and it seems like there are some things that are here to stay in terms of changing consumer behaviors for how we all spend our money. Grocery sales were still up another 17% in March relative to last August. But it also seems like consumers are preparing to go back to work, go back to social events, because apparel was up 52% over that same time period. And then things that were maybe pandemic activities like crafting and book sales were down about 15% over that same time period. So we are seeing a shift in consumer behavior in terms of the types of things we're buying as we look to come out of the pandemic in the United States.
What about just from a pure numbers standpoint, Keith? How much did we spend, this March compared to a year ago when we were sort of in the throes of the pandemic?
Yeah, so in March 2021, e-commerce activity in the United States was 78 billion, which was up 49% year over year. It was up 34% year over year in January and February. And so you can see, even though people might feel a little bit more comfortable going back to stores, e-commerce is actually accelerating, probably off the back of that stimulus activity and a better economic outlook. That 49% growth in March was the highest rate since last July. So it does seem like we're all feeling a little bit more confident in the economic prospects and starting to spend some pent-up savings.
And when we talk about spending on essentials, groceries, what about e-commerce sales? We saw it hit records last year, especially for Black Friday. So how is it doing now that the vaccine rollout's in play and people can actually start going to stores?
Yeah, absolutely. We looked at the period from March 11th to the end of March. Right? The Stimulus Act was signed into law on March 11th. March 13th, we crossed that 100 million vaccine threshold in the United States. And we saw an extra $8 billion in e-commerce activity relative to what we were expecting based off of the previous trends. So again, feels like we are feeling more confident in what the economic situation will be as we go forward, and people are starting to spend more money online.
I know we're spending more, these past few months, especially online, but the way we're spending has changed. I know that buy now, pay later has really gained some traction, especially in particular states.
It has. It was up 166% year over year in March as this type of payment method, the buy now, pay later payment method. And we saw the most active use of that payment method in Colorado and Washington, states with higher proportions of young adults. And so, even though perhaps there might be a little more cash in everyone's wallet, people are looking at these new types of payment methods and taking advantage of them where they can.
And what about spending on fun stuff, toys, video games? What has been the findings of your study?
Yes, lots of activity in those more fun segments. Sporting goods up another 15% in March relative to last year. Video games always strong throughout the pandemic, growing another 20%. And interestingly, people still taking a lot of joy in their homes. So in March, home improvement sales were up 31% over last year. So even though people might be thinking they're going to spend a little more time outside of their house, I think this trend of improving where you live is here to stay with us.
And I guess there's no surprise here that spending is as strong as it is. I mean, we did get those stimulus checks, and also consumer confidence. We got a report today showing it's at a 14-month high. Can you
Right.
glean anything from your report that may show that folks are being a little hesitant, maybe saving some of this money versus going out and spending it, or what might trip up their spending in the coming weeks and months?
Yeah, we did a companion survey alongside the quantitative data that we receive from an aggregate of the Adobe Analytics database. And that survey showed that the vast majority of people are intending to use those stimulus checks for what I guess term financial responsibility activities, paying down debts, paying down credit card bills, et cetera. And a very, less than 10% intended to use that stimulus check to buy something fun or extra. So, we are seeing that bump from the broader consumer confidence, as you mentioned, in terms of e-commerce activity. But I don't think it's going to be a dramatic increase because there are still a lot of people that, faced a difficult time over the last 12 months and intend to use those stimulus checks to pay down some of their financial debts from the last 12 months.
Absolutely. We can definitely expect e-commerce sales also to continue to be strong. Eadie, thanks so much.
Thank you.